You never know when things are gonna go wrong out on the water. Let's be honest, things break, even on the most expensive, well-kept with an open checkbook super yachts, kind of like the crew of the 308-foot super yacht Viva found out this past week, when the crew tried to depart and wound up finding themselves stuck at the entrance to the 17th Street Bridge in Fort Lauderdale. Just reminding you that things can go wrong on any vessel out there in the water, just one of the wild things we'll see in this week's episode of Boating News of the Week. Our first story to make the boating news this week is going to take us over to Rotterdam, where this was the scene just this past week as well, where for the second time this year, one of the inland cargo vessels that moves containers in and out of the Port of Rotterdam wound up hitting one of the city's bridges, losing 5 containers as the vessel tried to traverse underneath the bridge. The incident occurred at the Willemsburg Bridge, and eyewitnesses claim as the vessel approached the bridge, you could hear loud bangs as the containers wound up hitting the bridge and 5 of them falling into the water. Reportedly, at least 3 wound up floating back down the river, actually even causing the vessel that was behind this one to have to make an emergency stop in the middle of the river as to not hit the containers that were floating into its direction. At this time, the cause of the incident hasn't been released, but local officials are saying the vessel has been detained while the captain is being interviewed. There has been no reported damage to the vessel, but the Willemsburg Bridge reportedly has suffered some minor damage, and local crews are trying to determine the extent of that damage at this time. If this event feels familiar, that's because it is, because back in March, a cargo vessel very similar to this actually hit this exact same bridge, becoming lodged under the bridge while local officials had to wait for the tide to come down for it to get freed. Our next story to make the boating news this week is going to take us over to Australia, where this was the scene just a few weeks back when a 332-meter cargo vessel was coming into the port of Fremantle when all of a sudden things went awry as the vessel tried to pull into a berth and all of a sudden wound up colliding with Australia's largest tall ship training vessel, the Lewin. The Lewin's a 55-meter tall ship sailing training vessel used to train young people on how to sail. The cargo vessel also wound up hitting the Maritime Museum and Pier as it was coming into port as well. The cargo vessel is the Marisk Shiku, and it had encountered sudden bad weather just before both the collisions occurred. The vessel was actually being assisted by 4 tugboats at the time of the incident as well. An investigation has been launched into the incident to try and determine the full cause. During the incident, there were 2 crew members on board the Lewin at the time the collision occurred. Fortunately, they were both able to get off quickly without any major injuries, but unfortunately, I can't see the same for the Lewin as it was completely demasted. Our next story to make the boating news this week is going to take us over to San Juan, Puerto Rico, where this was the scene just this past week when the crew of the Coast Guard cutter Richard Nixon wound up rescuing 11 migrants who were left stranded by smugglers on the uninhabited island of Manito. Coast Guard watchmakers in San Juan, Puerto Rico received a communication from a fishing vessel reporting a group of people with orange shirts who appeared to be stranded on the rocky cliffs of the island. The Coast Guard station quickly dispatched a Jayhawk helicopter crew and diverted the Coast Guard cutter Richard Nixon to the area to confirm the reports. The Jayhawk helicopter was the first to arrive on the scene and did confirm there were indeed people on the island that appeared to be in distress. They gave direction to the Coast Guard cutter of the location of the people on the island. Fortunately, at this time, there was good weather and they were able to use one of their small vessels to approach the island and get the inhabitants off. The Coast Guard wound up tossing everybody life jackets and using a life ring, instructing the people to hold on to the life ring and dive into the water as they pulled them on board the vessel. On the island, there were 11 people in total, 6 men and 5 women, all claimed to be Haitian nationals. This crew was exceptionally lucky to be spotted by a fishing vessel. No telling how long they would have lasted out on this island without any supplies, but the Coast Guard was able to get them pulled on the vessel safely without any major injuries, and the crew was turned over to U.S. Border Patrol in Puerto Rico. Thanks for watching, crew. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Boating News of the Week. If you ever see anything crazy happening out on your waterways, be sure to hit us up on Facebook or Instagram and let us know when you might see your stories over here. And if you guys haven't already, go ahead and drop an anchor on the subscribe button here.